He has figured out a way to be invisible. You know exactly what I'm talking about. He's not dead.
Hey everyone, welcome back. This is episode 23 of The Variant Verdict. My name is Josh.
And I'm Sean.
Tonight we'll be doing The Invisible Man by Lee Winnall, the new horror film from Blumhouse.
Yes.
And this is a movie that, just like Bloodshot, went to straight to VOD, video on demand. It was in theaters for a very short period before this pandemic.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's why we're going to cover it tonight.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like it deserves it because I will say this movie actually surprised me a little bit. I really enjoyed this one. Now, when it comes to this, I initially thought maybe going into this was an extension of like that Universal monster universe, but I don't think it is. So, and I, like after seeing it, it just doesn't feel like it. But I mean, so what would you say this movie's about?
To like to start up the basic premise, Elizabeth Moss, the character she plays, is in a bit of an abusive kind of relationship with her boyfriend at the time, decides that right from the onset of the film she's going to pack up her stuff and leave while her boyfriend is asleep.
Yeah, literally how the movie starts.
Get on the road.
Her waking up and running.
Sets a couple breadcrumbs for things that get paid off later in the very beginning of the film. But yeah, she takes off from an abusive relationship, finds solace a couple weeks later, does find out after she's kind of becomes an agoraphobic person from this abusive relationship, doesn't want to leave the house, has a hard time adapting back to normal life because she finds out 2 weeks later the sister of the guy who died visits her to let her know.
Oh no, that was her sister.
Or her sister, I'm sorry.
That was her
Lets
sister.
her know that he had committed suicide 2 weeks after this event.
Yeah, so
took
like
place.
she finds out that he's dead, so that like everything, her problems are over. You end up finding out that he left her like $5 million in his will, and so like she's got all this money now and everything. But then, little by little, you start noticing things. She has a lot of paranoia in the beginning of the movie. You know, rightfully so. She thinks that he's following her and he's going to come after her. But even after hearing that he's dead, it doesn't leave until you start to kind of realize that maybe there actually is somebody in that room with her.
Yeah. The first time that she starts to recognize that something is going on, paranormal in her life, is that the door kind of starts to open on its own, and then she sees the breath.
Yeah.
Cause it's really cold outside, and then you see her breath, so they use that visual to kind of show that he's standing like right next to her,
and you have no idea. No, they did actually. That's one thing I would like to say about this movie, where a lot of horror movies you see where it comes to like an invisible killer or a monster or something, they always have to like show the audience or tell the audience like where they are to bring up the suspense that like, oh, he's right behind you. This movie doesn't do that. This movie will show you a blank room, and you yourself can't tell whether he's actually there or not. And that, I think, is actually done really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like where you, in the same sense as her, like, you don't know if there is something there right next to her. Where, if it is in the room, where the fuck is it in the room? It's like you can't ever actually tell, and I think they did a really good job with that.
And I find it fascinating that like right when this stuff starts to happen to her, she goes back to the executor of the will. Because the guy left her $5 million.
The guy who's died brother. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the brother of the guy who died, and she says to him like right away like, yo, like, cause She put him to sleep the night that she left with diazepam, which she was prescribed, and she did it that night, and she couldn't find the bottle, and then it showed back up in her apartment. She brings that to the executor of the will, and she's like, he's invisible. He's coming after me. He's not dead. You're in this shit with him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought that was kind of cool because it flipped the whole idea of having been investigated on its head.
Yeah,
and
like
jumped
find the
right
mystery.
Into the story.
It's like she's like, fuck that. I know what this is right now. And like,
yeah, it's like right from the get go. She doesn't spend a lot of time deliberating it. She just goes right for the answer, which I like. I think it sets the movie up pretty well.
And in a way, yeah, because at the same time, it's not one of those movies where she got to like figure it out. Is it a ghost? Is it something like you don't know? This movie, like, it tells you exactly what it is, and I feel like they replaced all that with her trying to convince everybody that she's not fucking insane. Which is in a lot of those movies, where, like, everything that she says, she just sounds insane, so everybody's actually...
Which, might I add, actually works really well in the context of the way that the script's written, because it clearly uses the analogy of an abusive relationship for the Invisible Man himself and the relationship with the girl. You know, she goes to the cops to tell them what's going on. They don't believe her.
Yeah.
The guy, when he's putting the will together, thinks that she only was with the guy for the money. There's a lot of like stereotypes and stuff like that they hammer home that are obvious, like in the context of what they're trying to say here.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty well done. It was intelligent.
And the thing that I actually liked is that this person isn't like fucking with her directly. Like what they're doing is they're fucking with people around her. Like she sends an email to her sister talking about how like she never wants to fucking see her again, all that, like talking all this shit. Sister
Which
has
slowly
drives
problems. The character mad throughout the movie because she's like, these things are happening that are out of her control.
Yeah, exactly.
And she plays like into the madness so well.
Yeah, like
Elizabeth Moss.
She's sitting there with like a little girl that's, you know, at a house that she's staying at, and then right when they're about to get up, just fucking like you can just tell he just smacks the girl, and like she thinks it was her, and like there's nothing she could do. She's like, he's in the room. You sound like a fucking mental person. So they did a really good job at that, where like she's insane, and then when you look at her, you almost look at her like, is this all in her head? Like, she looks nuts. Like, by the end.
That's where, again, it goes back to, it tries to play into the psychic of the psyche of trauma.
Yeah.
And how it affects you in an abusive relationship.
Yeah, like, a lot of people just start thinking that she's just, like, losing it.
Her
after
going,
everything
like,
that
becoming
happened.
agoraphobic, her not being able to, like, go on with her life, leave the house, and do normal things after the relationship ends.
No, exactly. So, and that was another thing that I'm sure he loved, too, because he was just probably sitting right there with her the whole fucking time. No, they did a really surprising job when it comes to this. Another thing that I would actually like, and then obviously it's, I mean, we've talked spoilers already, but there's another one. So you find out that this isn't like some paranormal or some, you know, like weird science experiment or anything. What he's using is like an optics suit, which is cameras. Like what we would consider the most realistic thing of an invisibility suit. It's like all cameras. Now, this is something that I can't say bugged me. I understand why they did it this way, but before you realize it's a suit, you hear nothing. Like, he's silent. He's like a fucking ninja.
Yeah,
they
they play with the silence and the visuals.
In the visual, yeah.
They're married to each other in this movie to be effective.
Exactly. But after you discover that this is a suit, and then when like you're touching it, it makes a sound. All of a sudden, you're hearing that sound for the rest of the time. That, to me, was a little bit of an incontinuity, but something I'm willing to go past because it made the beginning that much better. Like, as far as it, like, really don't know. But if, in a way, I actually wouldn't have hated the sound, like, she's sitting there in a room hanging up a dress, all of a sudden you hear that, like of the cameras, and it's like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? So it's like, I don't know, I would have liked that. That would have worked, too. It didn't have to be, like, dead silence.
And as far as being a horror movie, it plays into the sound and visuals so well that like most of the scares in this movie are generated from like the slow burn of waiting for something, the dreadfulness.
Yeah,
of something
exactly. It
happen.
drags something out to dread. So it's like you're like any second now, a minute later, any fucking second now, like.
Definitely.
And you don't know when it's coming. No, they did a good job on this one, and I walked in.
Did you have a favorite scene?
Yeah. Ultimately, I would probably say my favorite scene is, I guess you could say the first like conflict between the two, where like all of a sudden he grabs her, like they're fighting in a kitchen. He's throwing her over a table, all that kind of stuff. She's fighting back. I love the shot.
Yeah, that's my favorite scene too.
Yeah, I love the shot.
She gets up and then.
Yeah, no, that shot where she grabs a plate and you just see her smash it over his head. Just the effects of it. How, like, she's just swinging a plate, but it's smashing into nothing. And shit. That was just really well done. That was very well done. So, no, I actually...
And then when she finally runs out of the house after their tuffle in the kitchen... She runs out of the house and the camera does this kind of POV thing, like where she's running and she's looking behind her, and it's like from the POV almost like of the Invisible Man.
Yeah, like he's sitting right behind her.
Like and then she runs by a surveillance camera and like you just see her, and then the camera shows again, like almost as if you as the audience is supposed to be looking for this Invisible Man chasing her.
No, exactly, and it's like, and you don't even know if he's there, and that's why that's one thing I liked is that, and I'm going back to it again, saying the same thing. The fact that you do not know is the best part of it. But if that was your favorite scene too, then I would say this goes ahead and wraps it up. So make sure you guys subscribe
Like, comment, and share.
Yep, definitely leave something if you want us to verdict or if you want us to let's play. But we will see you guys on the next Variant Verdict.
Yep, stay safe, everyone. Thanks for watching.